Welcome to Lioness at the Door, a podcast where we discuss creating a life of joy by embracing the gift of agency, our power to choose and be accountable, which gives us the amazing opportunity to grow. We're two regular girls talking about the challenges of converting what we believe into what we actually do and who we are becoming. I'm Amy Rasmussen, a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. I'm here with my friend Jackie, the creator of Lioness at the Door.
Hi, I'm Jackie Sorensen. I am a mother and grandmother, wife, and a holistic health coach for women of faith. The image of Lioness at the Door is meant to inspire us to see ourselves as converted, wise, strong, and able women at the threshold of choice. The door represents our opportunity to choose our path moment by moment in all circumstances.
We're really excited today to jump into another aspect of what we're calling clutter. And really, we are talking about clutter, but we're talking about becoming aware so then we can deal with the clutter, right? So we can make choices. And that brings us, as I'm sure all of you are guessing, to Thor, the god of thunder. So recently, one of my sons said, I haven't watched this movie or that movie in the Avengers series. And it's because he was too young when we were watching it. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so he is old enough. They're like, okay, we will watch it. So we just watched Thor. And in that very first Thor movie from years ago, there is an attack on Thor's home, and he goes to his father and he's like, we need to strike back. We need to show them who's boss. We are stronger. We need to go and just show them that. And his father says, no, we don't. We have, this was an act of a few people. We don't know that it was the king. And so we need to leave it alone because we have peace right now, right? We have a treaty.
We need to protect the peace.
Yeah. Thor doesn't agree. So he and his friends decide to leave. And there's a gatekeeper named Heimdall. And so they come to the gatekeeper and they want to be let out. And the gatekeeper is going to let them out, but he says, you have to be aware that I am not going to open this gate for you to come back if it will endanger our home, because my job is to make sure the home is safe, which you and I could totally go into that on another episode. But after some back and forth, Thor says to Heimdall, I have no plans to die today. And Heimdall says, none do. And the thing that I got to thinking about as we're jumping into this idea of spiritual dissonance is that Thor says to him, I have no plans to die today, as he is stepping out to start a war. He is stepping out with this small handful of people to fight against an entire planet, an entire civilization. And yet, so what's in his mind, I don't have plans to die, has nothing to do with how he's acting, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think this idea for all of us that it's like, well, I had no plans to become a screaming witch at my children. And the Heimdall of mothers could say, none do, right? Or someone could say, I had no plans to become a totally stressed out college student and be a spaz and not have fun. I thought it was going to be fun. And the wise, graduate student who has found balance might say, none do. Mm-hmm. So with that glorious example of someone who's experiencing some spiritual dissonance, I thought we could jump in and have you explain your version, which I'm pretty sure doesn't involve Thor.
No, it doesn't. But what a fabulous visual. That's awesome. Yes. You just see him with his glassy eyes and his wisdom.
Yes.
None do. Yeah. Okay. So what I think of as spiritual dissonance is when you don't feel right. You feel less than, confused, cluttery in your mind, maybe indecisive. I don't know what to do next. I don't know if I need help or if I can do this on my own. I don't know if I should have this conversation with this person, or it's just that icky feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm not right. I'm not clear. I'm not singing I'm not singing.
Right.
that I think is the red flag for, there's some dissonance in there. There's something that's cluttering up the works. The light is not coming in and shining out. There's something in the way, kind of a feeling. Everybody's felt it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we feel it for a day. Sometimes we feel it for a week. Sometimes we have years where we're sleep deprived and we're walking around in a fog of, am I okay? Is this okay? Am I doing okay?
Am I making it or not? I'm not really sure.
So a few questions to see where you are. Are you feeling loved? In any given moment. Do I feel loved? Do I feel like someone in the world cares about me and about how I feel and about what I want and who I am? Here's another one. Do I feel known? Another question might be, how do I feel in my relationship toward God or with God? Is there clarity there? Is there, like, at any moment, can I jump to prayer and feel that connection, feel the love that exists between us? What about, do I feel like my needs are being met? Do I feel lonely? And do I feel right? Like, do I feel a lingering feeling of like, I need to apologize to someone. I need to make something right. It might even be making something right with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or making something right with your spouse. That's like the ever common one, right?
Right. That cycles through often.
Yes, yes. Or with a child. Or is there something that I need to own to God that I have been, we talked a lot in the previous clutter episodes about using our energy to keep things hidden from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, we're talking about using our energy to keep our discomfort, our feelings of something not being right. We're using our energy to keep that down. We don't want to see it. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to talk about it. And there are a multitude of reasons why we do that. I think sometimes it's a matter of timing. Like, I don't have time to lose it right now.
Right.
So I'm not going to think about that right now because I know what's going to happen. So for instance, this morning, I was listening to a class that my husband and I are taking about working with kids on the autism spectrum. And our very capable teacher was talking about the ways that we are available to our children and the way that it helps them to form a secure attachment in this world. Are you available? Are you sympathetic? Are you empathetic? Or do you show them the attention they need when they need it? Do you put down your distractions and turn your attention to them and let them know that in this world they're cared for? And as I was listening to that class, I just started to weep because I could think of a million times when I was so stressed out of my mind, but I'm sure I wasn't paying attention in all the times when my little children needed me. That is just life, right? None of us are hitting every moment perfectly. None of us are hitting anything really perfectly, I don't think, but my desire is to have that kind of connection with my kids and for them to feel at home here, to feel that they belong and that they're valued. And we know that early on, that the way that we respond to them sets the precedence for the rest of life. Oh, this is how people respond to me. This is what I can expect. and either they get that connection and they come into their adult lives open and ready to engage with other people and bond with other people, or maybe they didn't get that and they are very guarded and their relationships are difficult. And we're all somewhere along that spectrum, right?
Right.
But the point that I'm making is that this morning I was here in this house by myself. I didn't need to get breakfast for someone. My husband was already out the door, and I had the luxury of just letting myself cry over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I just had a very good cry. And then, when the wave kind of passed, I blew my nose, wiped my eyes, got ready for exercise class.
Right.
But sometimes life's not like that. Sometimes we don't feel like we have this, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to process this. I'm going to let the emotion out. I'm going to, think about it. And maybe I'm going to journal about it. And maybe I'm going to have that conversation with Heavenly Father and say, I really, really want my kids to feel loved. Please help me to keep trying. I can see the ways that I have been lacking. Please help me to keep moving forward, Anyway, so sometimes it's a timing thing. Sometimes it is that we feel so lonely or so by ourselves that we don't know where to go or who to talk to or where to turn.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you think? What keeps you or people that you know in that place of things are just not quite right inside of me?
I think some of it can be stubbornness, right? Some of it can be pride. You're talking about something that, I don't know, feels a little softer and a little bit more like, well, I can forgive myself for the fact that, okay, I didn't have time to process and cry this morning, whatever, right? Let's just go to the really ugly ones, right? That things that we can be aware of ourselves in the moment that we're like, well, I'm not ready to let that go. I'm not, or whatever. So I think stubbornness and pride can be there. Of course, I think victim mentality can cause a problem with that, where rather than just saying to ourselves, this question of, do I feel like my needs are being met? No, I do not. Well, that's because of that person and that person and that person and that person, right? And if we go that direction, we actually can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or the things we try to do are not actually going to be helpful.
Right.
Oh, well, I'll just talk to so-and-so about that. Well, then we're expecting that other person to do something and we can't control what they do.
Right.
But if we're able to look at those things and say, okay, I feel like my needs are not being met. What am I going to do about that?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're doing it from the aspect of what am I going to do about it, we could still maybe go and talk to a person and say, I would enjoy if we could do this together, or I would like this. But then we're also in a place to realize that, yes, I made a request, but now the ball's in their court. And whether they, do that thing we asked or not, that doesn't affect whether or not now we feel our needs are being met, right? It was just one option, because we're also going to do things that are fully in our court. So it doesn't mean we can't make requests. But anyway, so those are the two that came to mind right away. Is just
those are
stubbornness.
Number one and number two.
Yeah.
because we do get stuck. And then, like you said, the victim mentality starts, and then it's into resentment and into just living in the past and rehearsing over and over all the reasons why that's true, blah, blah, blah. So,
well, I had a couple other thoughts too, just as I got past those two, but I think fear can do it. I think there can be a lot.
Fear's the whole thing, right?
Right. But just like, I know in one moment you say, I don't really have time to lose it right now. Well, I don't have time to lose it right now could span like 20 years of a person's life.
Yeah.
Right.
Easily.
They're just so much into I'm just trying to survive. And it's just one thing after another. And there's never the breathing space. I think feelings of weakness can do it. Like, I'm not up to that task. And of course, that's forgetting this relationship with God part, right?
Mhm.
That's forgetting the fact that when you go to bed at night, I just heard someone talk about the fact that when she goes to bed at night, sometimes in those really hard times, she will say, "Here it is. I am giving it to you for the night so that I can sleep. I know I have to pick it up in the morning, but I'm just giving you everything tonight. You
Yep.
know, everything you need to take from me. I don't even have to explain it, but here you go." And that was her nighttime prayer,
Mhm.
being fully aware that she was going to pick it all back up in the morning, but being at least because she had to, right? I mean, there were things that you really couldn't just say, "Okay, here you go, God, now I won't act." We still have to act. So I think feelings of inadequacy can be there. I think a question of, as I talk to women, I think a lot of times it's a question of, and this comes back to love, but that feeling of, well, am I worth it? Is this asking too much that my needs be met? Is it really worth the time and the energy? So maybe even sometimes a lack of faith or trust that making that time investment up front is going to have a positive effect, right? It feels like, no, doing this, figuring out what the dissonance is, I no, I don't have faith. It's just like someone who doesn't want to invest money, right? They think that's not really going to turn into something for retirement because it's such a small amount.
Mhm.
And yet it's amazing what a very small amount can do. So anyway, those are a couple other things.
Yeah, yeah. And interestingly, what we were talking about with attachment, interestingly, the feeling of being the adult and not being cared for
Mm-hmm.
and feeling lonely and maybe abandoned and all of those things, maybe that simply harkens back to when you were the child and how people responded or didn't respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings up another question, and maybe exactly what you just said. Well, now that I'm an adult and all that time has gone by, and that's what I learned as a child, can I change it? Is there anything to be done? And I want to say very, very loudly, yes.
Yes, always. There's
Yes.
always something.
So a couple of thoughts about when you're recognizing what we're calling spiritual dissonance. Number one, talk to God about it. Ask him, how can I move forward? Who could I talk to? Where could I get help? What could I read? Please put it in my path. I'm open. I want. This is the door of agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am choosing to ask. I am choosing to receive. I'm choosing to listen. I'm choosing to lay down my pride. I'm choosing to lay down my distrust. I'm choosing to pick up faith. And I'm choosing to throw it out and to anticipate an answer. This could happen in 100 million ways. The answer could be a feeling, could be a phone call to make. It could be, for instance, here's a good example. When I was praying over a problem that we were having, the teacher that I was just talking to you about that helps parents with kids with autism, his name popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I had talked to him maybe a year before, and I just became aware that he taught this class. And then I had completely forgotten it. But then all of a sudden I was in need and I prayed, and his name just popped into my head. And it was an absolute godsend. It was an answer to my prayer. And it gave me a place to throw my faith forward. Mm-hmm. And to practice my hope. And then to roll up my sleeves and go to work and learn from him what he has to teach me.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. Sometimes the answer is a feeling of peace, of, I hear you, I love you, I want you to succeed. I'm so pleased that you asked, you know. And that's the beginning of spiritual dissonance coming into harmony, coming into a feeling of balance. So number one, talk to Heavenly Father about it.
Well, as you're talking about that, I think with that connection to heaven, and we're talking about people who may feel like, I don't have time right now. I don't have time. Well, you don't need a lot of time to say in your heart, in your mind, Heavenly Father, I'm off and I know it. If that is the only prayer that you can send heavenward, it's a beginning.
And if you're driving the car and you say
Mhm.
it out loud, or if you're standing in the shower and you're weeping and you say it, it doesn't matter.
You can be changing a diaper. You can be taking a kid to school. You can
Yes.
be scrubbing the dishes. You can be at work, right? You can be running anywhere.
Yes.
But that is the opening of the door of your heart so that then the nudges can begin.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's the nudge of peace or the nudge of here's a name or whatever. But I think what's great is that you don't even have to have a question. I think sometimes people don't go to Heavenly Father in prayer because they're like, I don't even know what to ask him. Well, it's okay to just say things are off
I'm here.
and I don't know what to ask. Right? Or can you just be with me?
Mhm.
Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be, tell me exactly how to act in this moment, but just the recognition, things are off. I don't know what to do begins it.
Yeah. It's a maybe one of the greatest acts of agency that we do
Mhm.
is to call out to God.
And it's so important that it's God, as we've talked about, I think here and there, hinted at or whatever, because God's the only one who can really answer that need. He is the only one who can perfectly say, Jackie needs a name. Amy needs peace. Or the other day I was, one of those spouse cycles of being frustrated with something. And I've been working on studying my patriarchal blessing. And I opened it up and it had been several weeks. And my little tab was writing this paragraph that's like, I have out to the side, my personal marriage advice. And I seriously started laughing out loud. I was like, okay, thank you. Received, I got to end, the words of that paragraph had kind of come into my mind during the week of me just being like, and so to open it up and have it on the words was like, really, Amy, for real. So it's like, anyway, it was, and as I was reading it, I would giggle some more and then I'd laugh some more because it's just like, yes, I'm aware, I got it. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean I can change in an instant, but I realize you're speaking to me. Thank you. So sometimes I think it takes, I don't know, a kick in the shins or something for some of us.
Smack.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the second one is kind of interesting, and we've talked about this a little bit. The second one is a process of cultivating a relationship with other people that helps you to feel loved. Now, I have to describe this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get messed up in our minds about the way to make friends, the way to be close to people. And if you come at it with the idea that I need to impress someone, I need to be this level of whatever, of pretty, of active, of clean, of on the ball in this area or that area or whatever. And that is how I'm going to attract friends. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's kind of the opposite, where I want to be friends with this person, so I can't let them see X, Y, or Z.
Right.
I can't let them in when the house is a wreck. I don't want them to walk in the back door when my laundry room's blown up. I don't want, whatever. So it's kind of on both sides, the idea being, I want to show my best self. I want this to be the way that people are drawn to me, right?
Well, and not even just I want to show my best self, but I want to hide things.
Yes, both sides.
Right. And I think that I guess a lot of us want to show, I mean, we want to show up as our best selves in a lot of ways, right? In a fine way. But I think when that is paired with so therefore I will hide.
Right.
I'm going to hide all this, keep this hidden, keep this secret. No one can know that, my bed is currently unmade.
Yeah.
It is really.
Well, guess what? So's mine.
Yeah.
We got it.
They were doing this.
Mattress pad cover, and it stinks so bad, that chemically blah,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's airing out. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is, I want to create or cultivate relationships where someone actually sees all, within reason. Okay. Like, I want to be able to welcome Amy into the back door when the laundry room is blown up.
Right.
And there's a reason for this. And it is that in order to feel unconditionally loved by someone, in other words, I want to be friends with Amy, not because my laundry room is fabulous.
Right.
I want to be friends with Amy because Amy cares about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to know that she cares about me unless I know it's not the laundry room that's bringing her here. It's
right.
And it doesn't matter what state the laundry room is in. It's okay. She likes me when the laundry room's blown up, and she likes me when it's clean.
Right.
That we need that social proof. We need to, even when it comes to telling the truth, like I could say to Amy this morning, I said something to my spouse, and all of a sudden I realized that I was upset and I was justifying my bad attitude, and I had to apologize. That's a tiny little window into the reality of my life. I want to share that with Amy. And then when Amy says, oh, wow, yeah, I know how that is. I know that feels. That's really awesome that you were honest. It's really awesome that you figured that out. Instead of, oh, men are such,
right.
I want to cultivate a relationship with someone who is equally honest with themselves and share their realness with me. Now, if you're looking for this kind of relationship, and most of the time we just have to create it. Sometimes they happen really beautifully on their own. But if we recognize this spiritual dissonance and things aren't quite right, and I'm feeling lonely and I'm feeling isolated, I'm, whatever, the choice would be, I need to show up. I need to show my heart to someone. And when we're doing this, we're doing it smart, like we observe people. We know kind of mostly who's trustworthy just by observing them. And one really good way to have an idea about how someone might respond is this person a generally positive person?
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy all the time. They're not floating around all the time, but are they generally in charge of themselves? And are they generally positive? Then I know I can give a little bit of honesty and see how they respond.
Right.
It's a different way of looking at friendship. And the end game is, I want to cultivate a relationship with someone so that we can both feel loved, seen,
right.
really, really seen, really heard, really known, and loved. Because if I'm just showing someone the polished side, I just might think they just like that polished side, but that's not all of me. And I need to know it's the whole thing. So connecting with God and connecting with people, and they both help each other, right? They cross over. When I feel loved by people, it's easier for me to cultivate that relationship with God.
Mhm.
When I feel that relationship with God, it's easier for me to cultivate the friendship.
Well, and I think that connection with God, another reason it has to come first is because whether we like it or not, God knows the whole Amy. God knows the whole Jackie, right? So we can be a little less, even if we show up trying to not let him see all of us, he already sees all of us, right? So
Don't even try.
there's no hiding, right?
Yep.
But I mean, I think sometimes even with God, there can be this like trying to hide oneself, right? I mean, we learned that from Adam and Eve when they're like, let's hide. Well, he knows where they are. It's not like they're really hidden.
They took a
And
little bad advice
then
on that one. Yeah.
what? Say that
They
again.
took a little bad advice. They had a little bad advice.
They
on that.
did, but we all get bad advice. That's the tricky thing. We get that same bad advice.
Mhm.
You need to hide that. And not only do you need to hide it from other people, but you can totally hide that from God. Well, no,
Yeah,
you can.
He won't know.
Heavenly Father is aware. But I think that can help us test that out with how to show up with other people
Mhm.
in reality. So I love this, that the fix for some of those things you said, like the loneliness, like feeling like our needs aren't met, all of that stuff is to recognize, well, how am I not being real and authentic? And I think right now being real and authentic is such a big thing people talk about. Well, I want to be real, so therefore I'm going to splash it all out there. And that's where it's like oversharing is not the same as being real.
No.
That is absolutely not the same. In fact, I've read books, I've seen people talk, and they're being real, but it's not real. It's now like glorifying this oversharing rather than really talking about the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Or you find out, oh, so that's what's going on in your in the background. And you don't have to overshare everything to be able to say, like I just did, yeah, I had a week where I was just kind of like grouchy in relation to my spouse or whatever. And I was kind of looking for answers, but I was kind of like, no, I'm not.
I'm not finished being mad.
That's right. However, I don't need to share all the ins and outs of that. I don't need to splash that out and say all of his parts and all of my parts.
Yeah.
That's not necessary for you to know and for our listeners to know. Yeah, I had a week and it took a lot of hammering on Heavenly Father's part because I was praying about it, right? But obviously the door wasn't open. And he's like,
so let's talk about the last element of it.
Yes.
Which is telling the truth.
Yep.
And it could be the prayer of, I am recognizing my pride. I'm recognizing how very stubborn I'm feeling right now.
Yep.
It's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. The truth is the shortest distance between spiritual dissonance and the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the truth.
Yeah. And I did tell him, I'm like, I know I'm asking for help and I'm still mad.
We're all in a degree somewhere in there, right?
but to say it in my prayer, to be able to say, I am here, I am praying, I'm asking you for help while I'm fully aware that I'm also being a total bum.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not really receiving the help, right? That whole prayer can be said to Heavenly Father. He already knows it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say it.
Yeah.
Well, I want us to end with this quote that I heard, and I thought, oh, that could just be perfect for this spiritual dissonance that we're talking about. It's by May Sarton, and having heard this quote, I want to read stuff by May Sarton because I've never read anything. I only know this quote. But she said, the constant remaking of order out of chaos is what life is all about. Even in the simplest domestic chores, such as cleaning the table and washing the dishes after a meal. But when it comes to the inner world of feeling and thinking, many people leave the dishes unwashed for weeks. So no wonder they feel ill and exhausted. And I just thought that is exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If we're leaving the dishes of our brain in the sink, then no wonder we can't get past it, and we just feel all those feelings you talked about at the beginning, just the, yeah, I don't feel right.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful quote.
We would love to hear thoughts from you. I heard from a number of people being excited about the clutter episodes, and that was really fun. And then they had thoughts and they had questions. And so if you have those thoughts or questions, if you try something we suggested, we just love to hear how it worked out for you, because so often as I'm talking to people and they're kind of processing what we've said here on the podcast, they have a slightly different take or they have a question or whatever. So please reach out. You can email us at Jackie. Now I have to look at the email because I thought I had it memorized. It's jackie.sorensen@gmail.com. You can comment where we post this on YouTube or on Facebook. If you have our personal contact information, you can contact us that way. But we would love the feedback, because it helps us know where we maybe could have a little more discussion, where to go deeper, and all of that.
So it's been great having you with us. I am Jackie Sorensen.
And I'm Amy Rasmussen. Thank you for joining us.
And remember, the door of decision is wherever you are.
Have a good week.
Take care, everybody.